This is Professor Shimchak. I am providing this short video because there was some problems during the Monday class with our servers. Lexis was completely down and Westlaw was not behaving the way it should be, making the instruction a little bit complicated to follow. So I apologize for that. I didn't have control over those servers. Also, our evening students had a lot of questions about Westlaw and didn't have an opportunity to play with Lexis. So I would like to just quickly go over what we did on Westlaw to remind you, and then show you some of the case law and citing features on Lexis. Again, keeping in mind we're using the headnotes in the cases to narrow our research to relevant issues or expand our research to relevant issues. We were looking at Rule 11 and we're trying to find case law to determine how courts apply sanctions under Rule 11. We're specifically looking at Rule 11b and these 4 subdivisions, or even more specifically, Rule 11b-2. There are 2 ways we can go about doing this. We can either look at our citing references and whittle down the 43,000 cases to find the ones that talk about the factors, or we can look at the notes of decision to see if any of the West editors have given us some help in that regard. So I'm going to quickly do that just to remind you what we did in class. If we open the notes of decisions, we looked at the categorization of the cases by West and decided to go to number 3, or chapter 3, number 91, factors determining sanctions generally. And from here, we looked at a binding case. So the editors select the cases in these notes of decisions because they consider them good examples of how the court has applied Rule 11. We're looking at the Community Electric Service of Los Angeles case. That's a Ninth Circuit case, so binding on us here in Hawaii. And when we open it, we're faced immediately with the red flag, and the red flag is bad, of course. And in this case, the red flag means that Community Electric has been abrogated, but we don't know for what reason, because as you know, in a case there are multiple issues taking place. There are business issues taking place in this case, as well as statute of limitations. And we're more interested in procedural issues, specifically the sanctions issue. So we looked at the head notes and we identified, I think, 5 of them that were relevant. I'm just going to look at head notes 8 and 9 here for purposes of illustration. If we wanted to expand our research, we can use the digest topics and head notes that are listed here, specifically this one, 2767, that deals with unwarranted, groundless, or frivolous papers or claims. If we identify that as our target key number, clicking on that will rerun a search with that target key number and pull up all of the cases related or tagged with that digest topic and key number. Similarly, that digest topic and key number is in Headnote 9, and it would work the same way. There are other key numbers associated with this particular headnote, but we're not really interested in that right now. The time when the paper or claim is judged, it's not our concern right now, so we're just limiting ourselves to that. Now, if we wanted to see how other cases have treated this case, and we would because of this red flag, we would need to take advantage of the key citing tools on Westlaw, and there are a couple of ways to do that. First, we could use the mini key cite. By that, I mean a key cite that limits the results to other cases that cite to this particular head note in this particular case. So that's 8 cases for head note 8, 7 for head note 9. They may have overlap, they may not. If you're looking for multiple head notes, though, the mini key cite is probably not going to work good for you. We're going to use the full key cite. Another thing that you could do if you just wanted to see the negative treatment is to click on the negative treatment tab, and that will list the cases that are treating your case negatively. Okay. So in this display, you'll see Townsend again, which we saw on the main page of Community Electric. And the key citing references are similar as they would be in the citing references here. We have our depth of treatment and we have our headnotes. What's missing here, though, is our sorting mechanisms. So if we go back to the case, or we just come to citing references directly and click on cases, our range of tools has increased. Right? So we can see Townsend has talked about this extensively. Headnotes 8 and 9 are quite relevant. And we have our sorting features if we want to sort a little bit more by jurisdiction, by the depth of treatment, if we want to customize our screen to particular headnotes, and of course the reported status, always looking for those reported cases. And so that's just a quick overview of what we did on Westlaw, and I'm going to jump over to Lexis now. When I came over to Lexis, because I already knew the citation, I put in FRCP 11, and it takes me to Rule 11, which contains the text of the rule. Again, we're looking at subdivision B. And one thing that's nice about shepherdizing a statute or a court rule on Lexis is that they will limit the results to the subdivisions within Lexis. Let me show you what I mean. If you click on Shepherdize this document, Lexis will give you the opportunity to either see all of the citing references to Rule 11, or you can limit it just to the subdivision that you're interested in. So, for example, if I wanted to limit it just to all of the subdivision B cases, or the subdivision B, subdivision 1 and 2, I think you get my meaning. And that helps you eliminate a lot of cases you would probably not be interested in. And then from here, you can use your sorting mechanisms again, right? Your jurisdiction, either the federal or the state, searching within your results or limiting it by timeline. So that's a nice feature if I'm going to be doing statutory research and it has multiple layers like this one does. Lexis gives you a bit of an advantage by allowing you to select particular subdivisions within the rule. Now, it's likely that you'll come in to do case law research at some point and use a natural language or terms and connectors search. So I just wanted to show you some of the display mechanisms that you could use to help with your research depending on your preferences. So again, I'm sticking with my Rule 11 case and running a natural language search. I'd like to show you one of the unique features in how Lexis displays its case law results. So my default is to this pie chart version. It's the graphical view, and you could see my keywords highlighted, and what is showing up here is where my keywords are appearing in the opinion. So each one of these green bars represents a discussion where my keywords are showing up, and the most substantial discussion is determined by that star underneath the green bar. So that's what we're looking at. Some of the other display mechanisms are the full view, which eliminates the graphical aspect of it. So if you prefer just a plain view with some annotations underneath each case, that would be what you would be selecting. Or if you want to get rid of all of the annotations, you have that option too. Your sorting mechanism is here. My default is to set the highest court and then by date. Your filters are over here, but what I want to show you is this Ravel view, which is unique to Lexis and may appeal to those of you who are more visually oriented rather than a linear display. In the Ravel view, the graphic that you're seeing is organized by lowest court to highest court, running up the vertical axis, and then the timeline is running against a horizontal. Each one of the circles in the chart represents a case, and the lines represent citations back to that case. The colors all have meanings, and they are in the legend here. So we know the dark blue circle, this big circle, for example, that is a U.S. Supreme Court case, if you didn't already know from the legend in the chart. The lines that are connecting the case also are color-coded according to the legend, as you see here. The larger the case is, the greater it has been cited. So this is that Cooter and Gell case that we looked at on Westlaw. This is the case that abrogated the community electric case and changed the analysis in the Ninth Circuit. So it's very clear, very easy that Cooter and Geller is running the show here. And you could use your filters up here to whittle down your results even further with our usual filters, our jurisdiction under court, and the publication status, selecting reported versus unreported. Okay, if we wanted to go and just compare what the community electric case looks like in Lexis compared to what we saw on Westlaw, and look at some of the tools available or the corresponding tools. One thing that's nice is that the Shepard's citation treatment is summarized over here on the right. And notice that Lexis has decided not to red flag this case, whereas on Westlaw, we had a very serious red flag and it was abrogated. So another example of how the editors at the different publishing houses treat the cases that cite back to your case. The process is still the same though. We're going to look at the Lexis headnotes. We're going to find the headnotes that are relevant to our research. So if we look at Headnote 17, for example, baseless filings, right, and requires such examination, etc. So this is equivalent to a headnote on Westlaw. And remember, on Westlaw, we can click on the key numbers to rerun the search to retrieve more cases based on that issue. Here, we just have more like this headnote. So if I click on this, Lexis will rerun the search based on the language that they've applied to this headnote to retrieve other cases that talk about this issue as it's expressed in this headnote. And just like on Westlaw, there's a mini Shepard's. So if I wanted to see the two cases that are citing back to Headnote 17, I could use the mini Shepard's and just pull up those cases. But for the sake of demonstration, I want to show you the full Shepard's report. Remember, we're interested in Headnote 17. It's always important to identify your headnote before you use your citator, whether it be KeyCite or Lexis. And from here, we have our results and some similar features, the bar treatment, one being very small treatment of just a discussion, whereas 4 and 3 bars is a much greater discussion. And we have our jurisdictions. If we want, we can select the Ninth Circuit. That is what we usually do. We're trying to find binding authority, and specifically the Court of Appeals. And we have some district courts as well. Let's just limit to the Court of Appeals. And again, we have 9 reported cases. So we just have a small group of cases. The headnotes that we're interested in, if the case is citing back to a particular headnote, it will be listed there. Here is our treatment. This case has a red flag. It's no longer good to follow, but it's a bankruptcy case, only deals with Headnote 1. And we don't see anything about Headnote 17. And the only major discussion is, again, the Townsend case. Okay, so eventually we get to the Townsend case, but the representation of how it comes to you on Lexis is going to be different. And there is the discussion. Okay, that's all I have for you. See you next week.